Alright, peace to you, man. How are you? In today's video, I just want to enumerate upon or expand upon my policy or how I deal with the Hadithan, because I think that even amongst us quote-unquote Quran alone people, as we call ourselves, Quranites or whatever you want to say, there's a lot of injustice that is done, and how I've learned to deal with the Hadithan. And I think we're unjust with him in a lot of ways. I think a lot of us Quran alone people, we're under the impression that because we have a certain theological view, and of course we affirm in our stance, no problem, I agree with that. I'm firm in my rejection of the authority of the Hadith. Now there may be good things in the Hadith, I've read beautiful things in the Hadith, there are things in the Hadith that are consistent with the Quran, no problem. But I'm firm in my stance that these are not authoritative. The Quran is authoritative. I accept it dogmatically. There's one thing I accept dogmatically, and that's the Quran, and I don't think the Hadith meets that standard. And there are people who do think that certain Sahih Hadith, they meet that standard. And you have to understand, ladies and gentlemen, that amongst these Hadithans, there are good and righteous people. They have a saving grace, okay? We got to treat them with mercy and kindness and justice and be loving towards them. No, not the hypocritical Hadith. And I'm not talking about, the person who blasphemes like Muhammad Hijab, who says that, if you follow the Quran alone, you're going to be led to pedophilia. He's Muhammad Hijab, he's talking to a Quran alone brother in Speaker's Corner, and he tells him that even an atheist is better than you.
You see now, so it seems to me, here's the answer. It seems to me, and this is the problem here. The problem is, if you reject the Hadith, you reject the Quran. And what's happening now is that Quran aloners are actually rejecting the Quran. That's what's happening. They're rejecting the clear-cut Quran, because I said, so having said that, you've rejected the Quran now, so you're kafir. You're not Muslim. And all of you three are not Muslim. And by the way, not only are you not Muslim, you will end up in the hellfire.
Alright, that's fine.
Yeah, that's what we believe.
We'll prove that. Who's going to go
if you die upon what you believe in now, you will go to the hellfire and remain in there forever. Yeah. Because whoever rejects the Sunnah rejects the Quran. Uqsum billah al-azim, that's how it is. You guys are as Muslim as the Christian over there. That's all three of you. That's how I see it. All three of you are as Muslim as the Christians and Jews in this part.
Okay, thank you.
Including you. But maybe the qalam has been rufi'a ank, has been taken away from you. I don't know if you look like you have mental health. So khalas, it's finished. Bro, what left of Islam is there for you? You're not Muslim, brother. You should know now. You are a kafir. Kafir billah al-azim. Anything more? Anything more? If you don't accept the Sunnah, you reject the Quran. Yeah, there you go. He said, he said, with all due respect, listen. Look at the kufr. Akfar ma yuqal. Look, I've never seen a more kafir than you. And you. I've never seen it. Even an atheist is more bloody Muslim than you.
Wallahi, if people are getting paid to do this, they won't do that.
Yeah, wallahi, an atheist is akfar.
So according to Muhammad Hijab, according to him, I mean, it's not true, but let's just say, okay, we deny Muhammad because we deny the Hadith. In his eyes, denying Muhammad is worse than somebody who outright denies God. Somebody who believes in the scriptures, somebody who prays and fasts and does all these things, he's worse. And who believes in God, most importantly, he's worse than somebody who denies Muhammad in his eyes. I'm not talking about these kinds of Hadithans, but the Hadithan who, let's say, he sees the Sunnah as authoritative, certain Sunnah, certain scholars, and he just he fasts, he prays, he remembers God much. The remembrance of God, it brings a tear in his eye, it brings humility, it makes him humble. We need.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. هذه الناقة اللي ذكرنا الله عز وجل سبحانه جل جلاله عندها. لأننا نذكر الله عز وجل سبحانه عندها ثاني مرة، هل نرى أنها تخشع ولا ما تخشع؟ سبحان من تواضع كل شيء لعظمته وذل كل شيء لقدرته ودنا كل شيء من مخافته، عماد من لا عماد له، سند من لا سند له، القلوب له مفضية والسر عنده علانية، يعلم مثاقيل الجبال ويعلم مكاييل البحار، يعلم ما في وعرها وما في قعرها، خالق كل شيء بيده كل شيء جل جلاله في علاه، هو الذي أخرج المرعى، هو الذي جل جلاله في علاه أمره بين كن فيكون، قادر على كل شيء بديع السماوات والأرض، أبدع في خلق العرش، أبدع في خلق جبرائيل، أبدع في خلق ميكائيل، أبدع في خلق إسرافيل، أبدع في خلق الجنة، أبدع في خلق النار. لا إله إلا هو جل جلاله في علاه، هو الذي تواضع كل شيء لعظمته وذل كل شيء لقدرته. عماد من
them humble. We need to be kind and merciful towards these people. And I want you guys to keep in your mind, us Quran alone, as it were, people, that just because we have a particular theological view, which is important, it's an important thing that we focus on, it doesn't mean that you're justified before God. You're not justified before God by your opinions. You're justified by how you act. And I've seen there are quite a good number amongst the Hadithans, I would think more so than the Christians, more so than the Jews I met, who are righteous people, righteous. They give charity out of their love and fear of God. You know, these people, they love the mention of God. Exactly. My wife is saying they love the mention of God. I see these people, like, they're so much better than the secular atheist scumbag. I wouldn't even, if I was living around some genuine, kind, righteous Hadithans who remembered God much and loved God much, I would not. That would be a pretty favorable situation. Like, even I notice, like, now when I'm looking for a job, like when I'm looking for jobs, when I'm just trying to, you know, like even when I buy my wife food at the restaurant or whatever, I just get her like they'll put an extra falafel in if we ask them to. Just kind gesture, because you go up to them and say Assalamu alaikum, because, you know, I'm wearing this necklace, so they see I'm somebody who believes in the Quran. Just by that alone, they show you an extra kindness. They're not enforcers. These Arab Hadithans and these Pakistani Hadithans, they don't care if you wear a mask in your stores. They don't care. And this wholesome and kind nature, it comes out of their fear and love of God. They don't care about these things because they're natural, wholesome people, and it comes out of their love of God and their belief in God. These people, man, we should not be, putting our fire, bandat. We shouldn't be doing that. We shouldn't be just screaming like a Rasta man at these Hadithan. This should be towards the secular and the atheist. He's our enemy. And the hypocrites and the waverers. But the kind Hadithan who disagrees with us on a particular theological matter, who's good and righteous, remembers God, he is not the object of our hatred, okay? He is not the object of our hatred. We should approach him as, and I don't agree with the Christian doctrine of, this like love the whole world, but that kind of Christian where you come with love and sweetness and gentleness, I think the Hadithan does deserve that kind of mindset. Speak a gentle word. Now also, we do need to make a distinction among these Hadithans. There are those who are very hard against Quran alone people, like I mentioned, Muhammad Hijab. There's also those who are soft and kind, the common Hadithan man, who I think deserves our mercy and our love and our compassion. And then there are those who I think do deserve some degree of firmness, and that is these mosques that have failed us. There's degrees, there's differences between people. The righteous, kind man or kind woman who just tries to do good and fears God, they're very different than these people who collect donation money at the top, and they've set themselves up as an authority, and they've compromised the doctrine. They've compromised the doctrine to maintain their tradition, and they've allowed the atheist man to stomp all over them, and they've kind of just... They've lived their very comfortable lives as opposed to, fighting in the cause of God and suffering persecution. There's a difference between these people. There's degrees, and we should deal with people justly according to the degree and the standard that they have. The common man, the common righteous man, they're very different than the mosque or the Mufti Mank or the Muhammad Hijab. And we got to keep these things in mind, man. We got to keep these things in mind. Not just because it allows us to operate in this world more efficiently, when we try to meet people at least on the common ground that we have. The Hadithan and I, at least we have the common ground where we say that we believe in the Quran and we believe there's one God. Not just that, it makes things easier, it opens up connections, it brings out meaningful relationships, help in this world, but also for our own souls, because we don't want to wrong another believer. We don't want to wrong somebody who perhaps God has favored and really, really loves them on account of their righteous behavior. There are some people, we do say faya, bandat. Exactly, but with the Hadithan, let us treat him sparingly, with justice and with patience, because I see his saving grace. I see it, especially living in this wicked, disgusting secular society, this atheist, quote-unquote secular society, this atheist society. People are just so godless and heedless. They don't care. When you mention God, you mention Judgment Day to them. People enforcing this mask thing, this tyranny, and you tell them, you remind them of God, you tell them that you're being an oppressor and tyrannical on the earth. You have no basis or justification for this, and you're going to see God on Judgment Day for all the things that you do, all the things that you enforce. They don't care. When you say that to the Hadithan, they remember. They remember, and they go soft, and they don't even enforce anyways. They don't care about these things because it comes out of their wholesomeness of believing in God. So just because you're Quran alone, it does not mean you're better. It does not mean that you get, it's kind of like, don't be proud. And it kind of reminds me of, oh wow, praise God, look at the moon, my dear. No, that's the sun, yeah, that's amazing. That's amazing, that's beautiful. But anyways, I digress. But it's, you know what it kind of reminds me of? It kind of reminds me of that verse in the Quran where, I'll have it up in the video, where God says that, the Jews, they feel like they're automatically going to go to the garden because they're Jews. The garden is only for them, or paradise is only for them. I wonder if that similar spirit is within us Quran alone people. We feel like we're favored by God because of a particular theological view we have. No, we're favored by God for what we believe and what we do. And I think we have to keep in mind that many amongst the Hadithans are probably better than us, the one who devoutly remembers God. And he's an example, not in his theology, not in his understanding of the scriptures and his methodology, but he is an example in his heart, in his belief, and in his actions, and how he lives his life, and he gives and he spends in the cause of God. A loving man, a devoutly dutiful man who's good to his wife, who's good to his children, a family man. He's loyal, he fears God, he stays away from evil things like pornography and interest and all that stuff. Just a good, righteous man or woman. So let us treat the Hadithan sparingly, okay, with justice. He doesn't deserve all this hatred that I see going out in this community. And I think that kind of thing, it comes from the derangedness of the internet, because a lot of us were just like separated and scattered, and we're just communicating to each other on the internet. We don't know how to deal with real people. Okay, these are real people. And I'm not just virtue signaling, these are real people who believe in God, okay? And even, I found that so many amongst these Hadithans, when you just tell them, you believe in the Quran, even if you tell them I reject the Hadith, of course there are those who, they'll attack you for that, but there are many of them who they'll accept your view. But just because you say you believe in the Quran, you greet them as a believer should believe. You say, as a believer should greet. You say peace to them, or assalamu alaikum. You say God willing, or inshallah. Because you say these things, not out of virtue signaling, but you say these genuinely because you mean them and you believe them. You can see that there's a comfort in them when they deal with you. Just because you come and you show that you believe in the Quran, even if you disagree with their theology, they're kind towards you. I've seen many Hadithans who are that way. So I think we should reciprocate that back towards them. Hadithan man has a saving grace, ladies and gentlemen. That is the message of this video, okay? He has a saving grace to him, the righteous one, of course. And I think with this sort of militant hating mindset of anybody who does not agree with our theological views, somewhat like a kind of a Christian thing. All these Protestant types, they just disagree with each other on the book of Revelation. They disagree with each other on their particular view of Jesus or whatever, and they just start hating each other and splitting off. And this type of a mindset of just setting somebody up as our enemy, because they disagree on our theology, we're closing off a lot of perhaps meaningful and helpful relationships that could come our way. Let's deal with wisdom, let's deal kindly, let's deal softly, and let us remember God in everything that we do, all right? But anyways, men, that's really all I have to say on the matter. I hope this talk was a blessing, and yeah, peace to you. Remember, deceit abounds, so keep your eyes wide open. Peace out.
Assalamu alaikum, men. My name is Walid Naeem, and I have dedicated my entire life towards spreading the truth about the words of God. And I don't know about you, but personally, I have grown sick and tired of all these mainstream religions, and specifically the mosques, which have utterly failed us. I'm fed up with them placing the words of man, specifically their fabricated hadiths, at a higher authority than God's holy scriptures, their lack of knowledge about conspiracy facts and realpolitik, and their complete ignorance of the true nature of our earth. I've had enough of their compromise, their weakness, their lame sermons which put people to sleep, their virtue signaling, their fear of facing any real persecution, and their willingness to let the quote-unquote secular atheist utterly trample over them. The atheists own all of the educational boards and teach their propaganda to every so-called Muslim and quote-unquote non-Muslim child here in the West. And now with the Toyota Corolla hoax, the atheist has successfully broken apart our communities and made us utter slaves to their government. Our so-called quote-unquote Muslim sons are a bunch of wannabe hood rat gangsters who vape, drink, smoke weed, and party like animals. And our so-called quote-unquote Muslim daughters are not much different. They have no interest in hearing about the Word of God. They are all too busy YOLOing. This has all happened while the imams have been living very comfortably off of the hard-earned money of their community members in the donation bins. As stated before, I personally am completely fed up with this. The mosques have had all of the support, funding, enfranchisement, and time of our communities and have produced absolutely nothing. The atheist has made the so-called quote-unquote Muslim man his bitch. He has steamrolled him in every way possible. That is why I created Eyes Wide Open. This channel exists as a call to action for all of those strong believing men who trust in their Lord fully and refuse to compromise the Quran. It is time the true sons of Adam and the inheritors of the tremendous tradition, in other words, the true Quranic Muslims, to set up something for themselves and fearlessly stand up against the madness that is going on in the world. What you see with my channel right now is only the beginning. These short videos I make in my car are all that I have time for right now, working a full-time job. I scribble these together while at work and make these videos while running errands. But you ain't seen nothing yet. If God should will, I have so much more in store for Eyes Wide Open. I want this to be a platform for the believers. Just a couple of things I have planned for this channel is, firstly, creating scholarly books, documentaries, and essays to arm you guys with the intellectual firepower for dealing with all of our enemies. Secondly, I would like Eyes Wide Open to be a center for heavy activism, public and street preaching, going to City Hall, organizing protests, knocking doors, going to baseball, hockey, soccer, basketball, and other major sporting events and preaching to the people leaving the stadium, going to the totally failed mosques, synagogues, and churches and debating with their religious leaders, going to universities and debating the quote-unquote secular professors on their laughable so-called science, and much more. It's time the believers start to fight back and shake the cage of this disgusting system. My goal is to create a base for the believers. I want people to know of our name, that there are dedicated, zealous, and studious men who do not compromise the Word of God, and we are ready to take action. If we keep waiting for our mosque to do something about the real problems of this world, then we will be waiting until Judgment Day. We need to create something now, from the ground up. With that being said, may God bless us in all of our endeavors and guide us every step of the way. If this sounds like something you are interested in, and if you want to be a part of the movement, then you can help me out. My Patreon and PayPal are linked in the description of every video, and, God willing, if enough generous believers decide to fund this platform, then I can quit my full-time job and look for something part-time, or, even better than that, leave employment completely, which will give me more hours in the day to do this work. I do not care to be rich. All of that stuff is vanity anyways. But the fact of the matter is, my wife and I need to eat and have a roof over our heads. So, if you wish to support the cause, then I thank you sincerely for that and promise to fight with might and main in the cause of God for the believers. If you are not able to, hey, then I totally understand. Find somebody else who needs that money and give it to them. Give it out of fear of your Lord and in dread of that great and terrible day, which is coming to all of us. For all of the believers out there, the brothers and sisters who follow hard upon the truth, all I can say is much love to each and every one of you. May God reward you in this life and the hereafter. Praise goes to God alone. Assalamu alaikum, everybody. Peace.